Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of Twins Daily Live. I am your host, Sweet Lou Hennessy, and I am coming here with a salty John Bonus, getting some sun-kissed action down in. Sorry, that was not meant to be for your demeanor or your attitude. That was more meant to
I can
be
be a little salty. Now you made
yeah.
me salty. Is what you've
There we
done,
go.
Sweet Lou.
There we go.
Salty John Bonus. I like that. Sweet Lou and Salty John.
Yeah.
It's you would think it would be a little more sun-kissed. It was as foggy today as I've ever seen it in Florida. Almost dangerous to drive foggy. But it's burning off by 10 a.m. It's supposed to be, or 10 a.m. or about at this time, it's supposed to be going away, and we've already got guys hitting in the batting cage down there, doing some BP right now. So
we love to hear
Ryan Jeffers at the bat right now.
Perfect. Well,
And
maybe you can give us
grounds out to shortstop.
Okay. Great. Pick it up, Ryan. Pick it up, Jeff.
Let's go.
Well, we're happy to have you there. Gosh, we just really needed some baseball. The off season was just getting so long. People are getting antsy. People are shaking up like a bottle of pop here. So it's good to have you there. And it sounds like you've been having some fun talking with some of the players down there. But first of all, how's the beat doing? How's everybody doing in the press box?
Everybody's doing great. We still don't have Gleeman down here. He arrives on Sunday. We will have him for about a week, but otherwise the rest of the contingent is here. We got joined by Tom Schreier from Zone Coverage.
Oh, great.
Of course, we've got Dan from The Athletic, Bobby from The Strib, Betsy from the Pie Press, and Matthew Leach from MLB.com. And it's been a very congenial group to hang out with as usual. So.
Well, awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on Twins Daily Live. Here's how today's show is going to go. John and I are going to talk about some news and notes, some tidbits that he's gotten while he's been in Fort Myers for these first few days here. Then we're going to move on and play a quick game, a new game that we're introducing called Overreaction Scouting Reports. So stay tuned for that. Should be a lot of fun. We're going to end it with some questions from the audience that we've received over our social media channels. If you have any questions of your own, please feel free to leave us a comment and we'll try to get to those as long as they're appropriate for the cast here. So John, why don't we just jump on into it? What are some big updates that maybe you've gotten in the first couple of days as players have been coming in? And I know that pitchers and catchers reported, but it sounds like there's a good contingent of position players there too.
Yeah, there's a fair number of position players here. I mean, certainly all the pitchers and catchers have reported. Everybody, I think, the last one to report is today, I think, and it's Liam Hendricks, who the Twins just acquired. We're, I think, scheduled to have a meeting with him, a scrum with him sometime after the afternoon scrum with Derek Shelton. So sometime this late afternoon, we'll probably get a chance to talk to Liam Hendricks, and everybody's looking forward to that because he's a pretty lively interview. So I think there's a lot of people who are looking forward to that. That'll probably be the lead story in a fair number of the spring training coverage that you'll see.
Sure.
But we talked to Brooks Lee a little bit today. We talked to Ryan Jeffers a little bit today. I've seen Walker Jenkins here. I've seen Kalen Culpepper here. If you're more of a prospect guy, I have not seen Josh Bell yet, but I did notice that Josh Bell is one of the quote unquote corner lockers in spring training this year. So, for those people that are not familiar with, kind of how the hierarchy works in a major league clubhouse, there are some players that either get a corner locker or get sort of a locker and almost a second locker, just to kind of give themselves a little bit of extra room. And usually those are the leaders of the team. For instance, Pablo's is one of them. Jeffers is one of them. Buxton is one of them. Ober doesn't have the extra locker, but he's kind of in one of the pole positions. But I noticed that the third corner one with the open locker next to it is Josh Bell. So I think that's a sign that they, at the very least, they're sort of, I don't know if they're looking for him for leadership or if they're just, deferring to him as sort of a veteran bat. But I thought that was a interesting piece to find out here.
Very interesting.
Who was the first player to show up?
Yeah, Behold the Man asked, who was the first player to show up?
We definitely had guys here for like a month.
Yeah.
I talked to, who was it that I talked to? Was here. He's been here for a month. I think
I read
one of the
Bailey
pictures.
Ober's been there a few weeks. He said.
I believe that. Yeah, Bailey Ober has been there. I know Bailey Ober was here for at least 2 weeks beforehand because he's from North Carolina and missed the big snow/ice storm that went there, and his family had to deal with it, and he did not.
Lucky.
Which is lucky, yes. I don't think it's, and I think a lot of the younger players are, it behooves them to get here early. Brooks Lee has been here since Sunday. He doesn't really need to be here until Monday next week. And I think that's because he's feels like he's got a lot of work to put in. Ryan Jeffers talked a lot about, how he uses the off season to try and sort of physically exhaust himself so he can kind of push his limits during the off season. So when he bumps up against them during the season, he's prepared for the grind that the major league season has. It's a little bit different than it used to be, 40 years ago, where, the spring training facility is closed up until the point where it's open and you've got one or two guys walking in the door. Now this is just a full-time thing, right? There's just always people here. It's just how many are here.
So it's a new year with Derek Shelton as the manager. Have things felt different? Has there been any kind of big changes that you've noticed? I know that he was here a few years ago, so maybe he's trying to just keep things as consistent as possible. Have you noticed any differences at all yet?
Yeah, they're kind of trying to call out some of those differences, right? People are trying to figure out what this new manager looks like, and really what this whole new leadership team looks like. You've got Jeremy Zoll replacing Falvey as the head baseball person, and you've got Tom Pohlad replacing Joe Pohlad as overseeing everything as more of a hands-on manager, so hands-on owner. I would say, there's the difference that people are noticing is, and I wrote about this on Twins Daily today. You can check it out. It's just sort of a level of intentionality towards things. Ryan Jeffers described it a little bit today, like. I think he just described it well, which I tried to describe in the story, which is, he is as, player friendly as Rocco is, but he is also potentially a little more, a little bit more in your face probably than Rocco was, and maybe providing a little bit more, we're going to do this and we're going to do this right kind of attitude, or at least, Jeffers seemed to suggest there was more of that. And, Jeffers suggested that he thought the younger players who aren't just breaking into the major leagues would appreciate that additional direction. How we'll call it that, that they might be getting with that attitude. We definitely, in terms of like actual things that that you could notice. Bailey Ober talked a little bit about pitching fielding practice on day one, which is one of the great cliches of baseball is every time the ball's hit back to the pitcher, and they mess up a play at first base or hit the first baseman and they fail to run it to first base and cover it. They cover that on the first day of practice. Well, that's true. That's not just they're not just making. That's not just they actually do cover that on the first day of practice on the days that pitchers and catchers report. It's one of the warm up activities, kind of. And Shelton talked a little bit about going back to sort of an earlier version of how they cover that based on the way Tom Kelly did it. And Tom Kelly did it, and then Ron Gardner copied him, and Paul Molitor copied him, and then and Derek Bell saw that underneath Paul Molitor, and then they changed that a little bit when Rocco was the manager, and Shelton wanted to go back to that in part based on a conversation he had with Tom Kelly after the press conference in which he was introduced. So there's definitely trying to be more. Well, the big word is intentionality. They're trying to be more intentional about preparing. And in fact, one of the other things that he did is, for those pitchers, before he showed them pitchers fielding practice and this drill and such, he went and showed them 2 plays on video from the playoffs this last year, and said, this is why we are going to pay attention to details, because these things pop up at the biggest moments and they can end a season. So.
And not to mention, surely they did some PFPs in last year too, in the years that Rock led to. Of course they did. But it was a big talking point in the first couple months of the season how many different times that a pitcher overthrew first base last year, and it cost them a few games. So
you're absolutely right, and I can imagine that is the thing. Even though Tom Kelly was talking to Derek Shelton in October, I can see where that would be something that would be sticking underneath his craw from April, May, all the way to October. And the first time he gets the new manager's ear, he wants to talk to him about pitchers fielding practice.
Sure. And you know what? At the very least, I think that some of our older fans are going to be happy to just hear that Tom Kelly has some influence on the current team too. They're going to love that. And who wouldn't?
And I do too. And actually, that's one of the reasons Shelton. That's one of the other things that Shelton called out is why wouldn't I listen to somebody who's had that kind of success and also clearly cares about the Twins as much as Tom Kelly. So
exactly. All right. Real quick, have you heard anybody say they're in the best shape of their lives yet?
I have not. We have I think Shelton did say something to the effect of, yeah, we're all in the best shape of our lives, that sort of thing. But only in a mocking way, not in a, boy, I really am in the best shape of my life kind of thing. So
Sure. All right. So on that note, have you heard any updates, any health updates from any players, guys who are dealing with something, guys who maybe were playing through something last year? Have you heard any sort of updates like that yet?
I mean, what we've seen is everybody is ready to go,
Okay.
with the exception of, we got one injury update yesterday. Corey Lewis, that's the knuckleballer, the fast throwing knuckleballer, is now going to be out for 2 weeks with a subscapular strain.
Okay.
I think is what the word of it is. That's the shoulder. It's a shoulder thing. And I think they're going to rest it for 2 weeks and then take another look at it. So we'll see what happens there. But other than that, no, I don't think we've had any injury updates. So.
Okay, well that's a plus. Everybody came out of
day two.
Yeah, day two.
Well, day one we already had one, so that doesn't put us terribly good standing for day 40 of spring training. But we'll see.
We'll take it for now. Corey Lewis is going to be interesting because talking with Jeremy Zoll and Greg Masterson actually wrote about this on Twins Daily today. Zoll at the media luncheon was talking about how that kind of bullpen kind of piggybacking of having some of these relievers. We saw it with Travis Adams and Pearson all last year, where they would pitch 60, 70 pitches, but then they would get 3-4 days of rest and then come back, almost like a relief rotation of those long relievers. Zoll said that it's likely that we could be seeing some more of that this year. He didn't specify whether that's at the major league level specifically, but it could be with guys like Corey Lewis or some of these starting pitchers that they continue to, maybe it's the bridge between moving from the rotation to a bullpen role. They start off by having these kind of 3-4 inning stints in kind of a bullpen rotation. And I think Corey Lewis could be part of that picture should he be healthy. So
I've been meaning to ask some people about that, because I also just want to see what their impression. I mean, if they're planning on doing it again, I assume their impression of it last year was that it was a successful strategy. And certainly we did see, some players who were subjected to that, like Travis Adams and Pearson Ole, make their way up all the way to the majors. Now, partly that's because there were just so many opportunities in the bullpen at the majors, right? But also, I mean, they had success, AA, AAA, et cetera, kind of moving up that way. And they weren't the only two that were sort of in that. In fact, I talked to Marco Raya yesterday.
Okay.
And one of the things that Marco Raya said was, first of all, he's switching to reliever this year.
Okay. Officially.
He's going to be officially switching to reliever this year, which isn't a big surprise because he switched to reliever last year at the end of the season, maybe 6 weeks before the end of the season. But even that, when he switched to reliever, was, every third day you're going to be a reliever.
Yeah.
It was still a scheduled thing. It wasn't like you're seeing in the majors where you've got, you're pitching back-to-back days, then you get maybe 1 day off, and then you're pitching on a fourth day, and then 4 days off, and then it's not as needed. It was in AAA, since the games don't really count as far as the Major League Baseball, they'll just decide to put you in a schedule, and that's what they did with Travis Ole. That's what they did with Pearson Ole, basically kind of starters or piggyback kind of thing like that, and they did it as well with some of their relievers like Marco Raya. But next year, Marco Raya's point is that's not happening to me next year.
Okay.
As a reliever, I am not going to be going every third day. I'm going to be going as needed. That's the adjust. They did that because I was making an adjustment from a starter last year, but I won't be doing that this year. So, does that mean, does that mean they're not going to be using it as much in AAA or AA? I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah.
Try and find out. It's a good question. Maybe I can ask Pete Mackey what he thought of that experiment and how it went.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great to hear his take on it for sure. Marco Raya is another interesting guy, especially if he is just going full on, one inning relief. That would be great. He's a player. He's an exciting pitching prospect that has had kind of guardrails for his entire professional career so far. He was kind of on the pre-lit plan where he would start games, but he would go, 2.5, 3 innings, something like that.
Right.
So it's going to be interesting to see as those guardrails come off, if some things kind of shake out. And
he had a tough year last year.
Right.
And he talked pretty candidly about, he feels like he was really getting ahead of himself. He was trying to pitch 5 straight really good games when he still hadn't pitched one really good game, is kind of how he put it. They moved him. We've been talking about whether or not he was candidate for the bullpen for years.
Right.
And this, he felt like that this was the time. This was the time for him to be doing that. He's really looking forward to the next year, and he worked very hard in the offseason to try and deal with some of the rough spots that he had last year. So we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? And to his credit, he's going to have a lot more opportunity to make a big league debut as a reliever than a crowded rotation picture. So
exactly.
it'll be interesting to track.
Yeah.
Anything else from the notebook that you want to reveal to us today?
How much time have you got? I mean, let's see. Brooks Lee, we had a good conversation with Brooks Lee this morning. I think it'll be really interesting to see how his year goes. I mean, it's a big year for him as the number one shortstop, and it's clear that he took that real seriously in the offseason. He spoke a lot about what he worked on in the offseason, both in terms of practicing, but also in terms of working out, was his explosiveness moving laterally.
Okay.
And then he also actually right at the end, he kind of talked a little bit about, one of his perhaps bad habits is that his first step is often in as opposed to, to the right or the left. And, even if you're playing deep, when you immediately start breaking in and then you have to go to your right or your left, you're, giving yourself less time for the ball to get to you. And so I don't know, I think that'll be a part of it. And then also, his hitting has been exactly the opposite of what we've expected from him based on his minor league career, where he was, viewed as much stronger from the left-handed side. He talked about how like there were times in college and early on in his career, he's like, I don't know why I don't just give up right-handed.
Sure.
And just hit left-handed. He just get frustrated with it. He never thought he'd have his swing straightened out there. Well, he hit so well right-handed last year that he ended up working on his left-handed swing for most of the year, and he's determined. He thinks that what the left-handed swing needs to do is see the ball a little deeper and hit the ball the opposite way, which is, probably not a bad strategy for a guy who's trying to improve on his batting average and already has shown, probably more power than we expected. So,
okay, well, that'll be something to track for sure. He's a pivotal character in the 2026 Twins season, no doubt, especially coming out of camp here. So, glad to hear that he's healthy. Glad to hear that he's feeling good and that he's been working on some of those lateral movements. So that'll be fun. All right. Well, if that's all from your notebook for now, I think we should move on over to our new segment, which is the Overreaction Scouting Report. How this is going to work is I have some prepared statements that I am going to throw out there, and John is going to give a scouting grade to how big of an overreaction this statement is. So for those who don't know, for those who don't know, the scouting scale is 20 to 80. On this scale, a 20 grade would be like, oh no, that's super realistic. We could see that happening. It's likely that this would happen. And 80 would be, this is way out of left field. That's a super overreaction.
Okay. All right.
So that's the grade that you're going to get, or that you were going to give. I think 60 is like an all-star level overreaction. We'll put
okay. All right. Okay. All right.
So I'm going to start off.
Most of Greg's Twitter.
Yes, exactly.
So just say, okay.
Exactly. These are all just coming straight from Gregory.
All right. Okay.
All right. So how about this? We're going to start off with a little on I guess you could say a negative note here. The Twins will lose 100 games in 2026.
Oh boy. No, I will say that's a 60 grade overreaction.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe even 70.
Okay.
Grade overreaction. I don't know, man. Why are you doing this to me on day 2 of spring training? What's the matter with you? Honestly.
Like I said, we're starting off high.
It's supposed to be sweet, Lou.
Yeah.
No, I think, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if this year ends up similar to last year.
Okay.
But even last year, they won, 70 games and lost 92. I guess I would really have to see the bottom fall out on this team for that to happen. Which isn't totally crazy, but it's definitely an overreaction. I'll definitely go with a 60 grade on that.
Sounds good. All right. I'm going to move on to something a little more positive here. We're going to go, if Lopez, Ryan, and Ober each make 30 plus starts, the Twins will have a top 5 rotation in the American League. So if those guys each make 30 or more starts.
In the American League, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of good rotations in the American League, but top 5 is not. So I would put that as if you're going to give me the if on that, that's a 20 as maybe a 30 in terms of overreaction.
Okay. All right.
You know, I think we'll see that from all of them. There's too much the way that would hurt them, the way that would not happen is if one of those guys or two of those guys keep getting starts even though they're bad.
Exactly. Yep.
And I kind of feel like there's enough depth behind them that won't happen.
Yeah.
And I also don't. I'm most worried about them. Maybe it's because of 2025. I'm mostly worried about their health. But if you're going to give me the qualifier that they're healthy, that's definitely not an overreaction at all.
Yeah. That this statement, I guess, mostly goes towards the health of the depth that they have in the rotation. And if, Lopez and Ryan, the question for them is health and kind of second half performance and availability.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
This means that, both those guys are on the team come August 4th, come August and September. That bodes well. Yeah. For Ober, it means that he is performing, because I'm not going to say he's on a short leash or anything like that, but last year did not go well for him. And they have a lot of guys that are ready to jump into this rotation. And if he is still mechanically having some issues and he, let's say he's 20 starts into the season and he still has an ERA that starts with a 5 or a 6, I think they start talking about some different options maybe.
I think that's probably accurate. I mean, so much of Ober's problems last year, his mechanical issues, were caused by the injury that he was having.
Yeah.
And listen, he is not immune to having mechanical issues. He's just got a big frame that's got to all work together. And when it does, it's a beautiful thing. And when it doesn't, it can be a little ugly. But I feel like, I feel like that impact of those injuries and that mechanical issues was bad enough that even if he ends up with like a slow start, I have confidence. He's such a, he works so hard to try and keep his mechanics in sync. And by working hard, I mean, working out hard, trying to strengthen muscles and so on, that would give him that advantage, that I feel confident that if he's able to make 30 starts, it's because he's both healthy and effective. So,
okay. All right. We're going to move on to our next statement here. And that is Brooks Lee will not finish the year as the Twins' primary shortstop.
It's a good question. Interesting. I will say that is a 50 overreaction. Okay. A little over half. Is that right?
Yep. That's a solid prospect.
No, 50 is right in between, right? It's right there. So I'm actually going to go 60, maybe a 60 overreaction on that.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, who do they have to replace him? Like, I guess that answer is Culpepper, right?
Sure.
But we've got to see how he develops here at AAA as well. I would say there's probably a 75% chance, 75 to 80% chance that Brooks Lee is still the team's shortstop at the end of the year. I mean, I do feel like Lee is listen. He's definitely somebody who works hard. He's just been such he's developed so unusually at the major league level compared to what he was at the minor league level, that I feel like there's a lot of room for him to grow in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And he's just about at that age where he should be able to grow in a lot of ways, including, as much power as he showed last year, which was a decent amount of power that we never really expected out of him. He's turning that age when you start showing even more power. And so, no, I don't know that we'll be, he's going to be might he be a bottom 10 shortstop in the American League, or not in the American League, in the major leagues? If you kind of add up offensive and defensively, he might be. He might be one of the lower bottom 10. He probably should be, or probably should be considering that right now. But that doesn't mean he's necessarily going to be replaced before the end of the year. So
sure. Well, time will tell. We'll see what happens. And like you said, this says primary shortstop. It doesn't say he's going to be an all-star caliber or a middle of the lineup cog or anything like that.
He'll keep his job.
Yes.
Okay. I think will happen. Yes.
We'll take that. All right.
And provided, again, he stays healthy. So
fair enough. All right. Next one up here. Newly signed arms will close more games than the returning options in the bullpen.
So you're talking about Rogers, Hendricks,
Orzi, Banda, Those are the big four.
Right. Yeah.
Over options like Cole Sands,
Close
Justin
more
Topa.
games.
Yep.
Wow. It's a good question. I think I'm going to say that's a minor. It's unlikely. That's about a 40% chance of it happening. So what would that be on the 20 to 8? Let's say I'm going to put like a 55 or a 60.
Okay.
Overreaction.
I think that's fair.
I don't think. Do you guys? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yep. We got you.
I just lost some volume. I don't know. I mean, I really feel like the options there are Cole Sands or quote somebody else.
Sure.
And so I mean, I think it feels to me like Cole Sands was still going to be somebody that they're going to be kind of leaning towards in that role. But I also think that the quote somebody else. Now, I guess my question is, where does like David Festa,
sure,
and Zebby Matthews and
Taj Bradley,
where do those guys qualify in terms of newly signed arms will close more of the games than returning options? Are those returning options? Because if they're returning options, then I think I would give a slight edge towards the returning options. There's just too many potentially high impact arms that they haven't moved into the bullpen role yet, and we're not sure they even will move into a bullpen role.
Okay,
but I wouldn't be shocked if one of them comes back.
Okay,
takes that role.
All right. When you brought up Cole Sands, I could the only thing I could see with him is that they're going to want him to be the high leverage guy. So that might not necessarily be closing opportunities. That could be
absolutely
the
right.
7th, 8th inning when they're facing the meat of the lineup. So that's one thing.
That's exactly my that'd be my biggest concern, I guess, about that as well, is that they end up using him as sort of the way they used Duran for a while, where the way you use Griffin Jacks, where honestly he's probably the best person in the bullpen, but he's not necessarily the closer. Right?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, next up here we have Byron Buxton will play left field 10 plus times in 2026, including the World Baseball Classic. So I said including the World Baseball Classic because if we didn't include that, I think it's probably the under on that. He's the primary center fielder. He's the best center fielder they have on the roster. Frankly, he's the only center fielder they have on their roster right now.
So how many games do they play in the World Baseball? The first round, 3 games, 4 games?
3 games in the pool play.
Okay. And then 3 playoff games potentially?
I want to say, I think more than that. I think it might be 4 levels after that. So let's say they play 7 or 8 games in the World Baseball Classic.
I'll still take the under on 10.
Okay, fair enough. It's going to be hard to see him. I can't
imagine I can't come up with a scenario where Byron Buxton is moved to left field so somebody else can play center on the Twins.
Sure. Yeah. So overreaction.
Yes, I would put a overreaction of a 70, maybe 80.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next up here, kind of on those same lines, talking about a potential backup to Byron Buxton, we have Emmanuel Rodriguez will start more games in center field than Austin Martin.
Boy, center field. I will also say that is an overreaction, pretty significant overreaction.
Okay.
Let me think about this now. I mean, if Buxton is out for an extended period of time, where would they end up turning to for center field?
Sure.
Well, I mean, it could be James Outman if he's still on the team.
Could be.
That would probably be if Buxton isn't there on opening day, that might be what I would say.
Sure.
But if we were talking about the middle of the season, I'm not sure Outman even makes it past opening day if he can't be here. And then you've got, if he's out for 2 or 3 days, well, then probably Austin Martin is my best guess. It's actually one of the questions I want to ask Derek Shelton is, who does he see as his, backup center fielder right now, or who's capable of being a backup center fielder right now? And we'll get a much better sense for that when spring training games begin.
Yeah, no doubt.
But I mean, Emmanuel Rodriguez has to stay healthy too.
That too.
In the same place. So I think I will say that is an overreaction at maybe a 60 level. I think we'll see more from Martin. Martin can take a couple of rest days from Buxton, and I'm not sure Manuel Rodriguez will make it out there. So
okay, fair enough. If you think that's an overreaction, we have this one coming at you. Luke Keeschel will start more games in center field than Austin Martin. That's going to be something I want to see. First of all, I'm not confident he's going to play a ton of outfield as it is. That's something I want to see more of this spring, his availability there. I know that it's hard to grade his arm based on this last season, based on all the injuries that he's had, but he had trouble throwing from second base. I was not confident in that. So he's going to have to show some serious improvement for me to feel comfortable in the outfield. If he does show that, he did play some center field in the minor leagues and in college. He could be an interesting option if they decide that he's healthy enough and he's available. He could be a fun little backup there every once in a while.
I do wonder how much we're sleeping on the Luke Keeschel might play outfield train. But I think center field is probably than Austin Martin. I think I would still probably put Austin Martin over that.
Okay.
Here's the thing: they don't have an obvious second baseman right now. Now maybe Kalen Culpepper races through AAA and they take a look and they say, Brooks Lee would make a pretty good second baseman if we can make Kalen Culpepper here, and then we can move Keeschel to the outfield, and they shuffle around the chairs, right?
Yep.
But I don't, your other options at second base aren't fantastic. Gio Urshela, they just picked up. You've still got Cody Clemens. Cody Clemens is nobody's idea of a second baseman any more than Luke Keeschel is. Yeah. Or less so even than Luke Keeschel is. So I feel like Luke Keeschel is definitely going to. I'm not sure he's going to be a great second baseman, but I also don't know who's going to push him out of that position. Even if they come to the conclusion that he's probably stretched at second base and he would probably be better off in the outfield. Everybody else is stretched at second base too.
Sure.
So I don't see an easy option there. So I would say I will give that a 60 as well. I think Austin Martin will see more in center field for sure.
Okay, good to know. I'd love to see it. All right, we just have a couple more of these. We have Joe Ryan will be playing for another team on August 4th. For those who don't know, the trade deadline is August 3rd this year. So he will be playing for a team that is not the Minnesota Twins.
I'd say that's at least that's a 50% chance, and maybe better than that. They were hesitant to they want a lot for somebody like Joe Ryan.
Yep.
And I say somebody like because I think Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober actually are in the same boat.
Okay.
They both are going to be free agents after the 2026 season, which means, you've got a chance to trade them. Whichever one ends, whichever one of those guys thrives for the first 4 months. And if the Twins don't thrive for those first 4 months, that'll be the guy that will be traded.
Sure.
So I guess I would put this a little under 50%. So a slight overreaction. I'll go a 55.
Okay.
But I if you asked me which way I would bet on that, I guess I would probably bet on him not doing it. Just too much can happen.
Okay.
But I wouldn't begrudge you the bet. Like that's pretty good bet.
I think a major factor in this conversation has to be the potential, even likely lockout coming into next year, which would be his contract year. It might be if they're going to trade him, now is going to be the time to get something if they get a good haul for him. I don't want to see it. I would love to see the Twins and Joe Ryan thriving together in August and September and October. But
that's an excellent point. It definitely would be something that they'd be much more interested in trading him. Just the trade deadline tends to be people lose their minds a little bit. I mean, even yes, you're getting him for 2 more months, but those are also just such critical 2 months. And then October is even more critical. So, there's a good reason that starting pitchers end up drawing even relievers, top-notch relievers like Duran end up getting a little extra at the trade deadline. There's just not that many over the offseason. You've got people that you can sign to contracts, and you don't have that on August 30 or on July 31st.
Sure. All right, we're going to swing through 2 of these real quick here. We have Target Field's 6 special events will outdraw the 17 Twins home games in April. So I did some math on this. 6 special events.
Okay.
We're talking the 3 games with the Savannah Bananas that are in August, and the 3 big concerts. My Chemical Romance, Noah Khan, and Toby Keith, Tim McGraw. It's a country.
Okay.
So those 6 events. And let's, assume that a sellout for those 6 events is about 45,000.
Okay, so you're talking about a quarter million people, right?
About 200
for the 17 home games, right?
Okay. 17 home games, they would need to average about, I think 15, I did the math. I think it was 18,000.
Okay.
And their overall attendance average last season was 22,000, including all the summer months when fans were coming out.
Whew. Yeah, I mean it's probably not an overreaction. I mean they're going to have opening day in April.
Yeah.
So that is, a good 40,000 that, or often 40,000, like that. So then really you're talking about the other 16 games being, about 210,000, 220,000,
somewhere around that. Yep.
Which probably comes to what? 13,000 a game, something like 14,000 a game. I still think I like the August 6 better because if you take a look at those games that they have in April, a lot of them are night games.
Yeah.
They're going to, in fact, the very next day after opening day is a night game. That Saturday is a night game, and that's almost never a night game.
Right.
And the reason it's a night game, I think one of the reasons it's a night game is because the Twins don't have the sort of makeup day built in. Their opening day is on a Friday. Usually it would be on a Thursday, but because they are already part of 2 other opening days, that isn't an option. So they had to have their opening day on a Friday, and they left, I think, Saturday day open in case there's a rain out for the opening day one. They would have to do a double header then on Saturday with the Rays, with a day game and a night game. And then right immediately after that, 3 of the games versus Detroit are night games. And then the week after that, they're back in town. And Boston, I think, are also night games. And I mean, it's going to be cold, man. I mean, I hope, I understand it's pretty warm in Minneapolis this week, and I appreciate it trying to melt the snow and get us an early spring, but that guarantees nothing for April. So I will say that's not an overreaction. That is a 40.
Okay. 40 on the scouting report. I like that some of the promos they're doing to try to get fans back in the stadium. They're having some ticket specials. I love the $2 pregame beers.
Yes.
That's going to be great. And that leads us to our final statement here. And that is John Bonnes will drink more than 200 pregame $2 beers throughout the 2026 season.
Well, again, good thing I'm a math major because we're going to have to break this down.
Yep. So let's say
seems aggressive.
Okay.
If
you go to 60-ish games, that gets you to
but I don't go to 60-ish games. I go to like 30-ish games. Yeah, that's where you fell down. We got stuff and frankly, I can't do that when I'm in the press box.
No, that's a factor.
They frown on that. Yeah,
that is a factor.
Yeah, it's like me and Castellanos have that in common. We're not allowed to show up with beers in our hands at our workplace. So I guess I'm definitely gonna. I think that is an overreaction. That's an 80 overreaction. Not even I can go through. If I'm going to 30 games, that's 7 pregame beers and. It's not like I can't. It's not like I can't do that. It's just that's a hard pace to keep up for 30 games. So
what if I change it to instead of John will drink 200, if John will buy 200?
Well, so now we are talking because I have a partner in crime that also enjoys beer.
Sure.
And we have a whole staff of Twins Daily writers who I like to buy beers for, and that
gets closer.
As it gets closer, I will put that as a 55 overreaction. I think even that's a little bit high, but that's not terribly too far off. So
it might be hard, but I think you might want to keep a running tally. Keep it somewhere. I don't know. Keep it in your phone, something like that. That'd be fun.
I also just want to call out. I probably am going to mix in one good beer sometime in that pregame, as opposed to they can't all be the $2 beers. You're going to have to get a good local craft at some point.
Yes.
So.
David says, John, this is why we have spring training to prepare to drink beer during the season.
I should
You're working.
I should just call this out. We are having beers with the beat writers
Hey.
at Palm City Brewing. 2 weeks from tonight, I think. And I'm going to see if I can actually. I don't know how nimble you are at adding stuff to the thing, but I'm going to send. Have I shown you the beer can? This Twins Daily will have a beer at Palm City Brewing this spring training.
Okay.
And that beer will be a Twins. We had it last year, Twins de Ale E.
Oh, sure.
And it will also be available for purchase in cans.
Okay.
At I don't know if it's all around Fort Myers or if it's just at the Palm City Brewing. And so I have just texted Sweet Lou Hennessy the label that is going to be on said cans. This is the first public display of this label. If we're going to be able to get it out here, I don't know. And we're very excited about it. I'm very excited about the text of it. Can I read the text of
go ahead. I'll work on getting the picture up while you read.
All right. Twins de Ale E Pale Ale. Spring training in the city of Palms. We love two things around here: baseball and irrational optimism. So the Twins told us they were into our beer. We said, cool, let's can those. Twins de Ale is a crisp New Zealand pale ale that pairs well with hope. Cheers to sunshine, lineups, and confidence we absolutely cannot justify yet. Brewed by Palm City Brewing Company. So
lovely. Well, that will be a ton of fun. Keep an eye out for that. Let me see if I can get the picture up here.
Yeah, so if you are around, let's see, that is a day that the Twins are playing the Yankees in the daytime. Like I said, it's a week after they open. I think it's the 27th of March, something like that. And catch the Twins facing the Yankees here at Hammond Stadium, and then I think probably 6:30 or 7 o'clock we'll probably have a few of the beat writers, several of whom enjoy craft pale ales, stop by and give their taste test and their there you go, and give their evaluation of the Twins de Ale.
There we go. Beautiful. It's a nice looking logo. That'll be fun to see.
Yeah, that's right.
We love seeing it. All right, John, we are going to wrap this thing up with some questions from the audience. We have a few questions that were prepared or that came into us before the start of this episode, and then I'll take a peek through the chat too to see what else we can find. Our first question comes from Not Mark on Blue Sky, and he says, assuming no additional spending, what's the most realistic path to get a competent bullpen in 2026? He adds, also, can we get John a less mugshotty picture for the banner pick?
Yes. Well, that the picture that you saw for this was literally taken in my kitchen as Lou was like, I need a picture. So, yeah. Let's see. I really believe the help is going to come from the minor leagues, and it's going to come from, some people that we are probably moving to the bullpen. Now, I don't know how many of the four names that everybody knows and everybody keeps repeating are going to move. I would actually be shocked if more than one of them do.
Okay.
I would put the over under on probably, a half. I'd bet the over on a half, but they do like, one of the things I'm wondering about is if this Twins leadership regime is as dedicated to keeping people's starters as the last one was.
Yeah.
The last one really only moved people to start from starter to reliever if A, they couldn't handle it physically, or B, they were getting their brains bashed out as starters.
Sure.
Griffin Jacks moved from starter to reliever because he wasn't very good as a starter. Lou Varland also, they gave him every opportunity to stay a starter, and then just moved him got him. And you know what? Turns out most players, after they've gotten their brains bashed into starters, don't mind.
They're ready.
They're like, I could just take the relief route and make it to the majors and quit throwing myself against this wall.
Yeah.
I still believe we've got a few different arms like that will come out of, that we're former starters. I think Marco Raya, who we talked about, is a good example. I think Connor Prelip is probably a good example.
Sure.
I'm wondering about David Festa and the thoracic outlet syndrome stuff that he's facing. Haven't had a chance to talk to him yet. You know, all three of those could be electric. Now, so could Mick Abel and David and Zebby Matthews and Taj Bradley. All of those guys would be. I think they would be, high leverage relievers if they end up moving them there. It's just a question of whether or not the Twins want to do that, especially as we just noted that they have three starters that might not be with them in 2027. If they end up getting good offers at the trade deadline. So
no doubt. Okay, so the flip side of this coin, Jumbo Jim asks, who is your front runner to begin the season as the Twins' fifth starter, assuming Lopez, Ryan, Ober, and Woods Richardson are the top four?
Good question. I would put my favorite as Zebby Matthews. Now that's based partly on, he had just such an exciting spring training last year. And I think there is still a question of to what extent the improved velocity he found. He's never had a problem with control before, right?
Yeah.
With the improved velocity that he found, it seems like he started having some trouble with control. I mean, again, similar to kind of Brooks Lee, right? When we saw Zebby Matthews come up in 2024, the last thing based on his track record you'd have said is, oh, he's not consistent enough. Right. Well, that's been his problem in 2025. He'll have an outstanding outing, and then he'll have a really not as outstanding outing where he's having trouble getting ahead of the hitters and giving up some home runs and so on. I just feel like that's the sort of thing that corrects itself at some point. So if I was going to go second, I think I would go Taj Bradley. If I was going to go third, I'd probably go Mick Abel. And Festa, like I said, the thoracic outlet syndrome just scares me.
It is.
It's just so often people think of that as beat, and then it's not. And I wonder, if it scares me, I can't imagine what it's doing to him and or the Twins staff.
Sure.
I wonder if the thought process is, let's not mess around with this too much. Let's make sure this kid has a career as a high leverage arm someplace. So
sure. I would say that Zebby Matthews has my front runner spot right now, but if somebody like Mick Abel comes in and takes it from him, it means that he really earned it in spring training, and that's a really good thing. So I'd keep an eye on Mick Abel. I think people he just barely graduated from prospect lists based on his 49 appearances or whatever it was, but he's entering the age now where it's got to prove it that he can be a major league starter. And I think that he showed some flashes and some really good underlying numbers down the stretch last year, even if the ERA wasn't as pretty. I think that this is going to be his best opportunity. And if he has a really good spring, I could see him cracking the rotation.
I just wonder how much with Abel we are overreacting to that last start.
Yeah.
That last start of the, I'll tell you, him going into that start, I did not have a high opinion of Mick Abel. Right. I did not. I missed that. I was in Philadelphia and I missed that game because of the three games. I was like, maybe I skipped the one with Mick Abel. And then, of course, it was the best game of the series. And he was the best pitcher in the series at that particular thing. To the point where I think the Phillies took a look at him and going, oh, boy, maybe we would have liked to hold on to this guy going into the postseason, giving all the injuries we've got on our pitching staff. That said, so that is why I'm probably a little more hesitant about him.
Okay.
He's still at the point where he's walking a lot of players. I had an interesting conversation with him as well. And I also, you'll find that on the Twins Daily story today too, which was, I asked him what adjustments he made to improve his control. He was over 5 walks per 9 innings in 2024, down to 3.5 last year, which gave him a 2.2 ERA or something across the minor leagues last year. And the adjustment he made is that he made no adjustments.
Oh,
the adjustment was the Phillies told him, why don't you just quit concentrating on that stuff and throw the ball?
Yeah.
And just let him loose. And don't worry about your arm slot. Don't worry about your mechanics. And that worked for him for a full year. I do wonder to some extent if the Phillies took a look at that and went, but it works. But what happens when things get out of sync again? Because we don't have it. We don't have the mechanics to fall back on, right? What happens when he's not feeling it? Maybe that's one of the reasons why he was a little more available than some of the other top prospects they might have had. But that said, I I'm looking for. I mean, he's so young. He's got such electric stuff. When the guy can walk, 3.7 walks per 9 innings and still have a 2 nothing ERA, that speaks to how electric his stuff can be.
Yep.
And so if he can, get some confidence, get ahead in the count, make the batters react to him as opposed to him reacting to the batters. Yeah, he could be awfully good.
Could be something. All right, we have just a few more here, and then we'll let you free. Timothy asks, can the Twins find a way to fit Nick Castellanos onto their roster, and what would this mean for Trevor Larnach? We got a few questions in the chat, too, about Nick Castellanos, who was just released by the Phillies yesterday.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think, yes, obviously they could fit him into the lineup, right?
Sure.
I wonder how excited they would be about having Castellanos here.
Oops, all DHs is my first thought.
Right. Yes. Right. I mean, that's part of it. I mean, I guess what you're doing then is you're just committing to Larnach in left field. You're putting Castellanos as a full-time, pretty much, DH. That pushes Rodin down. It pushes. I guess Clemens the utility role. Josh Bell's pretty much your all-time first baseman. Then
it really takes a hit on the defense, that's for sure.
I mean, it's funny because you're hiding him at DH and it still somehow hurts your defense.
Yeah,
right.
Funny how that works.
There's a cascading effect there. I guess I wouldn't be totally shocked, but I think there's a number of other. I think if I'm Castellanos, first of all, I want to play with a team that has a chance of winning a World Series. He's clearly a competitive guy. So I would be a little surprised if he would choose the Twins to begin with. Right-handed bat, etc. Like, there's plenty of reasons to like him. But boy, none of them are defensive. A very limited player, but can do some amazing things offensively when he gets hot.
No doubt. Okay.
I don't think the chances are real good. Let's say that.
Yeah.
They could find room for him for sure.
Last prepared question we have from A. Gleeman. He asks, what are we going to do with 300 Twins Daily Winter Meltdown pint glasses?
That's a good question. I think what we're not doing is mailing them, because that would bankrupt Twins Daily and probably Cleveland and the Geek as well.
Yeah.
What we're going to maybe try to do is have some. I think we're going to have an opening day watch party at Blackstack.
Awesome.
Maybe we can be giving some of those to people who are there. I think we're going to have some watch parties throughout the season for Twins Daily.
That'd be great.
If you're asking me if I planned any of that, got my act together on that, I absolutely have not.
Okay.
But there is a plan to make a plan about that. So we will see if that's what we can do. Right now, they are safely stored at Blackstack Brewing, I think.
Okay, good to know. We have Fire Greg that will save money for mailing pint glasses. Good idea. Behold a man.
Already, like I said, there's a plan for the plaid.
There we go. All right, I'm just looking through the chat here if we can get any just really rapid fire answers. Will Matt Cantorino ever throw a major league pitch? I know he's slowed down this spring too. He probably will not make any appearances in spring camp.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to say no because I like him, but no.
Sure. Let's see. David asks, will there be any beer gatherings while I'm in Fort Myers, March 7th through March 14th?
No. And in fact, I think you're going to be real light on coverage of the Twins, March 7th to March 14th. I leave here on March 10th.
Okay.
And the only person I know who's going to be here after I leave here on the 10th, basically from the 7th to the 14th, I think the only two people covering this team every day from the beat is going to be Matthew Leach from MLB.com and me until the 10th. And then I think a lot of the writers are coming back for like the last week to cover, the final cuts and then get on a plane to go to Baltimore.
Okay. Good to know. All right. I think that is all we have here.
But I would recommend is reach out to Matthew Leach because he loves craft beer. So for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Give it a try.
Last one we'll give to Caleb. He asks, will Outman still be around opening day?
I don't know. It's one of my biggest questions as well. Again, this is one of those things where I wonder if Jeremy Zoll is a little different than Derek Falvey on this particular piece, which is, They really, really hate, losing players for nothing.
Yeah.
And they need a center field. They need a backup center fielder. So I think there's a couple different moving pieces there. I guess if I had to bet on it, I would bet yes.
Okay.
He will be, because without options, I don't think they're going to want to let him go.
I will say he'll have plenty of opportunity to show what he's got in center field with Byron Buxton being at the World Baseball Classic. That's
true.
a couple
You're
weeks
right.
there where he'll have plenty of opportunity to claim a role.
Yeah.
All right. So the last one I have, I will actually answer, and that is Trevor Larnach still a Twin? This is one of the favorite segments we have on the Twins Off Daily podcast. We come to you about once a week or so. Please listen to us. We have a lot of fun talking about some Twins talking points and doing some fun games. Also, please make sure to go check out John with Gleeman and the Geek. It's a must listen for all Twins fans. So, John, any last words before we land this plane here?
No, let's play ball, man. We got the game start a week from Friday. We've got a great open house event here at Hammond Stadium on Monday. That's when the hitters also show up. So I guess my final takeaway would be, if you are a Twins fan, go to spring training at least once in your life. We got a great spring training guide on it, Twins Daily Spring Training Guide. The first time you come here, you will kick yourself that you didn't start coming earlier in your life. So,
exactly. Well said. Let's play ball. Everybody, our next episode, we're going to try to do this again, probably next Thursday. We're circling, but keep an eye on the Twins Daily social media channels. This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for the participation, everybody. Play ball. We'll see you next time, and stay sweet.